Homer Simpson might be the single most dangerous man in Springfield, which is a real problem because his job is to stop the town's nuclear plant from wiping Springfield off the map. But over 30-odd seasons, he's done the exact opposite more times than anyone should be comfortable with. So today we're ranking every time Homer nearly destroyed Springfield, starting small at 10% and climbing all the way to 100. We're starting at 10% with Homer Goes to College, the episode where Homer causes a full nuclear meltdown in a machine that doesn't have anything nuclear in it. Here's the setup. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission shows up at the plant for a surprise inspection, and Mr. Burns panics because he knows exactly how his dumbest employees will make him look. So Smithers hides the worst of them, Homer very much included, down in the basement with one simple job to keep them out of the way: guard a bee.
Oh, you guys are pathetic. No wonder Smithers made me head bee guy.
Homer naturally breaks the jar. The bee gets out, he chases it around, gets stung, and ends up popping out of a manhole in the street, right next to the inspection van, just in time for his turn in their testing simulator. And this is the part worth sitting with. The simulator is a van. It has no reactor in it, no nuclear material of any kind. It is a completely self-contained pretend meltdown. Homer causes a real one. The van starts violently shaking and glowing green as the inspectors scramble clear. It sinks into the ground, and then a radioactive, glowing green Homer climbs up out of the crater.
Must destroy mankind.
Right up until his watch beeps for lunch, and he just wanders off to eat, which is how the safety inspector of a nuclear power plant ends up needing to go to college. But the next time the countdown was real, with Homer wide awake at the controls. But he had no clue which button to press. Homer defined. And this one starts the way a lot of Homer's disasters do, with a snack. He's sitting at his console eating jelly donuts, watching none of the things he's actually paid to watch, when a glob of jelly flings off one of them and lands square on the reactor's core temperature dial, which is the single most important gauge on his whole panel. It's the one that tells him if the reactor is about to melt down. And now it's covered. Homer can't see the temperature, and the temperature is climbing. He doesn't notice because he isn't looking at it at all. So the core just quietly cooks, completely unwatched, until the plant tips over into a full meltdown. Alarms, rising gauges, the works. Burns and Smithers clock where the fault is and start bracing for the end. Smithers is so sure they're about to die, he blurts out a love confession to Burns on the spot.
There may never be another time to say, "I love you, sir."
Oh, hot dog. Thank you for making my last few moments on Earth socially awkward.
And the safety systems seal Homer in at his station because he's the one employee positioned to reach the manual override. Everyone's counting on him. Marge is at home watching the news. The whole town braces for Springfield to become a smoking hole in the ground.
Looks like this is the end.
That's alright, I couldn't have led a richer life.
And Homer freezes because he has no clue what any of the buttons do. The episode cuts to exactly why. A flashback to his training back in 1980, where the instructor is pointing right at the emergency override, telling him that in case of a meltdown, he pushes this button and only this button. And young Homer isn't hearing a word of it. He's completely lost in a Rubik's Cube. Back in the present, he actually holds that same cube up and blames it. Then he grabs the safety manual, finds it's about as thick as a phone book, and gives up on the spot. So with the town seconds from annihilation, Homer does the only thing he's got left.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
And it works. The meltdown stops. Then the episode does something kind of incredible with it. Homer doesn't get quietly sent home. He gets treated as a hero. The town celebrates the man who nearly let them all die and then guessed his way out of it. And the whole thing gets so famous that pulling a Homer, succeeding despite total incompetence, becomes an actual phrase people start using. That's the title, Homer Defined. And then, just to prove the first time wasn't a fluke, it happens again, over at the Shelbyville plant. Homer's actually there in person. Burns has sent him to give a motivational pep talk to Shelbyville's workers on the strength of being the famous nuclear hero. And right in the middle of his fumbling little speech, that plant starts melting down too. So they haul him into the control room and beg him to do it one more time. And Homer, in front of the entire room this time, closes his eyes and goes, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo," all over again. And it works. Again.
Do you even know what button you push?
Sure, Mo.
But a man this careless doesn't stay lucky forever. The next time the plant needs him, he isn't even going to be in the building. 30% king-size Homer, the one where Homer's laziness nearly gasses the whole town, and he gets a medal for it. Here's the setup. Burns brings in a mandatory morning exercise program at the plant, and Homer, who'd rather do almost anything than 5 minutes of calisthenics, goes hunting for a way out. And he finds one. If he can get himself classified as disabled, he gets to work from home and skip the whole thing.
If you weigh more than 300 pounds, pounds, you qualify as disabled.
The magic number is 300 pounds. Hit that and you qualify. So Homer doesn't diet down to a goal. He eats his way up to 1. With Bart's help, he binges everything in sight, and he finally tips past 300 on a Play-Doh donut Maggie made him, settling once his guts hanging free at a proud 315 pounds. Now he's working from home, and the job, it turns out, is basically one key. Every time the safety system prompts him, he hits Y for yes. That's it. That's the man standing between Springfield and a reactor. So of course Homer gets bored and rigs a shortcut. He balances a little drinking bird toy over the keyboard so it dips down and taps Y for him on its own. Then he heads off to the movies, and while he's out, the bird tips over. With nothing answering the safety prompts, the plant slides into a real emergency. A tank of radioactive gas that hasn't been vented in far too long, now about to rupture, and the only way to stop it is the manual shutoff, in person at the plant, which is a problem because Homer is currently the size of a small car. He can't call it in. His fingers are too fat to dial. He can't drive. The tires blow out. Nobody will pick him up hitchhiking because a 315-pound man in a bright moo-moo screaming at traffic looks like a lunatic. So he carjacks an ice cream truck and barrels across town. He makes it. He climbs for the shutoff switch, which sits right on top of the gas tank, and the ladder gives out under his weight. Homer drops straight onto the hatch just as it bursts open, and his lower half wedges into the opening, plugging the leak with his own body. The gas stops. Springfield doesn't choke, and here's the part that makes it so perfectly him. He caused every bit of this. The whole disaster only exists because he couldn't sit at a desk, but still Burns pins a bravery medal on him for stopping it, then offers him anything he wants. So Homer spends his hero's reward on getting the weight taken back off, and Burns just pays for the liposuction. That's the last of the plant floor disasters. Next, Homer takes it citywide, and all it takes to nearly split Springfield in two is a phone bill. 40%, a tale of two Springfields. Here's what kicks it off. The phone company split Springfield into 2 area codes, the old one, 636, and a brand new one, 939. And at the town meeting about the change, Homer notices something. Everyone who got to keep the old 636 code lives on the nicer, richer side of town, and everyone lumped in with the new 939 code is on his side. To Homer, that reads as one thing, the rich half of Springfield looking down on his half. So he does the only reasonable thing. He leads a revolt, rallies everyone on the 939 side to break away, and found their own town, New Springfield, with himself running it. And this is where a tantrum over a dialing code turns into real civic collapse, because Homer starts using the town's own infrastructure as a weapon. First, he cuts the power to Old Springfield, kills the lights mid-heart surgery at the hospital, and stands there going, woohoo, while the town goes dark.
Oh no, you can't do heart surgery in the dark.
Sounds like a wager to me.
I'll take a piece of that.
Then he escalates and dams the river to choke off their water, except that one backfires on him. With the river drained, Old Springfield finds gold sitting in the exposed riverbed, and Homer's big attack just makes them richer. By now, the two sides genuinely despise each other. Marge tries to talk him down, reminds him these people are their neighbors. They see them every day. Homer agrees with her completely, and decides the answer is to build a giant wall so he never has to look at them again. So he throws one up, a wall of junk straight through the middle of Springfield, and the wall instantly backfires. At the dedication, Homer stands up to address his loyal citizens, and as he cheerfully explains that they're now completely cut off from Old Springfield's food, hospitals, and schools, the entire crowd just starts climbing over the wall to defect, while he's still talking. Within a minute, New Springfield is a ghost town. Nobody left but the Simpsons and a passing tumbleweed, which also rolls over the wall and leaves. What finally drags everyone back together is, of all things, The Who. Homer, now ruling an empty town, tries to steal their Springfield gig for his side, and when Old Springfield finds out, they storm the wall in a riot, and when both halves converge on the concert to fight about it, the band just points out that this entire war is over an area code, and that speed dial exists. Then Pete Townshend hits the opening of Won't Get Fooled Again so hard it physically brings the wall down, and the two Springfields reunite in the rubble, a blackout and a wall the town can recover from. Next, Homer arms a chunk of Springfield and points it straight at the police. 50% halfway up the list, and one of the newest episodes on it, Homer's Crossing. Here's how it starts. Otto, the school bus driver, eats a whole pan of acid-laced brownies, has a full swords and sorcery hallucination, and drives off with Springfield Elementary's only bus, and disappears with it. No bus means the kids have to walk, which means the town suddenly needs crossing guards. And when Principal Skinner asks for one parent to volunteer, Homer's hand shoots up, not because he wants it, but because he's actually cheering at an announcement for a Revenge of the Nerds reboot and isn't listening.
Homer, you just volunteered.
Dear God! No!
Stop!
And the timing's perfect for him, because over at the plant he's just found out his workstation is fake, a dummy console his coworkers set up because nobody trusts him near the real one. So suddenly the crossing guard gig is the only place Homer feels like he matters. On his first real morning, the kids laugh at him, and then he dives into the road and yanks Ralph Wiggum out of the path of an oncoming car. Now he's a hero. The town praises him. Quimby throws funding at the crossing guard program, and Homer gets himself promoted to captain. And that funding is the mistake, because Homer takes it and starts recruiting, and his little squad starts controlling the crosswalks, blocking streets, throwing their weight around, refusing to let anyone across without permission, up to and including Chief Wiggum himself. Then one chaotic school-run morning overwhelms them completely, and instead of admitting he's out of his depth, Homer does the Homer thing. He stands up at a town meeting, blames the whole mess on a lack of funding, and demands more money. And Quimby unbelievably gives it to him. This time Homer spends it on hardware, body armor, weapons, armored vehicles, a crew of crossing guards kitted out like a paramilitary unit, all answering to him. When Quimby finally tries to claw the budget back, Homer threatens him to his face.
How did you know what we were talking about? Surveillance satellite?
And it boils over into a full armed standoff. Homer's militarized crossing guards on one side and the Springfield police on the other, joined by ICE, the TSA, parking enforcement, and a few overzealous neighborhood watch guys, all squared up in the street ready to open fire. What ends it is Otto. Finally sober, he comes rolling back into town in the long-lost school bus and plows straight into Homer, flattening him mid-standoff.
Am I gonna go to jail now?
I wouldn't dream of it.
That's Homer arming a piece of the town. Next, he brings in the real thing, the actual U.S. Army. 60% GI, annoyed grunt. It starts with Bart. The Army sends recruiters into Springfield Elementary with a slick video selling the military as non-stop adventure, flying attack helicopters by day, rocking out at concerts by night. And Bart's sold instantly, signing a delayed entry form that locks him in the moment he turns 18. Marge is horrified and sends Homer down to the recruitment office to tear the paperwork up. And Homer does get Bart out, but then he makes the mistake of admitting he only did it because Marge told him to, and the recruiters, smelling an easy mark, talk Homer himself into enlisting on the spot.
Wouldn't it take me away from my family for 2 whole years?
A big target like you will be home a lot sooner than that.
Woohoo! Where do I sign?
So now Homer's in the army. He's too stupid for the real infantry, so he gets dumped in with a unit of equally hopeless recruits, and during a big nighttime exercise, they're handed the role of the enemy. The guys who exist to lose so the real soldiers look good, and Homer causes so much havoc, at one point blinding a whole squad of night vision troops with a flare, that he and his unit end up bolting from the field entirely and running all the way home to Springfield. The problem is the colonel in charge does not take this well. He turns it into a personal war, declares the exercise live ammunition, puts a kill-on-sight order out on Homer, and then marches the entire army into Springfield to hunt him down, dropping the whole town under military occupation. And this is a real occupation. Tanks in the streets, troops going door to door, and the colonel rounding up anyone who's, and this is the actual criteria, fat, bald, or has ever been amused by the antics of Homer Simpson, which is how even Principal Skinner ends up detained.
Excuse me, I don't belong here. I am not bald, I am balding. Why will no one honor the ding?
Homer's the spark for every bit of it. One man running from a training game, and a live army follows him home. The way Springfield finally wins is pure Simpsons. Marge gets the whole town to dump alcohol into the reservoir. The entire occupying force drinks it and passes out cold, and the hungover soldiers surrender the next morning. Next, it takes Homer exactly one dancing Santa to bring the whole city down. 70%. Papa's got a brand new badge. Here's the setup. Springfield's in the grip of a vicious heat wave, so every building in town has cranked up a huge air conditioner, and all that demand has pushed the nuclear plant to the absolute edge of its capacity. Burns has already cut power to the orphanage to buy a little slack, and Smithers flat out warns him that one more appliance, could overload the whole system. Meanwhile, the Simpsons don't have air conditioning. They're sat in front of a sad little fan, and Homer, sweltering, decides what he really needs is a taste of winter, so he plugs in a dancing Santa Claus. That one pointless novelty is the last appliance. It tips the maxed out plant over the edge, and the entire city goes dark. And Springfield does not cope with the dark. Within minutes, Lenny and Carl crash their cars into a blacked out storefront, notice the alarm isn't working, and start looting it. Other people see them at it. It catches, and it snowballs into a full-blown citywide riot. People tearing through smashed shop fronts, hauling off everything from cinder blocks to chunks of a burning tire fire, while the police completely lose control of the streets. By the time the sun comes up, Springfield's been gutted, smashed windows, looted stores, a whole city that spent the night tearing itself apart. And Homer, to his credit, actually cops to it. The whole thing started with him. Next, Homer stops wrecking storefronts and levels an entire district in a single chain reaction. 80% e pluribus vigum. The lead-up is almost aggressively mundane. Homer's diet is set to start on the 1st of the month, so obviously he decides to go out with one last enormous binge, driving the length of Fast Food Boulevard and gorging at every restaurant on the strip. By the time he's done, his car is packed with junk, so he pulls up to one of those novelty drive-up trash cans and starts emptying the car into it. Wrappers, garbage, and crucially, an old leaking car battery. Then he lights a cigar and flicks the still burning match into the same bin and drives off. Here's what he's just set in motion. The acid from that leaking battery has been eating its way down through the ground, straight into an underground gas main, so there's a gas leak building right beneath the street. And Homer's lit match lands directly on top of it. The match finds the gas, and Fast Food Boulevard goes up. The fire races through the gas lines under the road, and the restaurants start detonating one after another in a chain reaction until 37 of them, the whole district, are leveled. An entire chunk of Springfield wiped off the map because Homer couldn't be bothered to empty his car properly. And the knock-on is almost stranger than the explosion. Springfield's now desperate for money to rebuild, so Mayor Quimby yanks the town's primary election right to the front of the national calendar to pull in cash and attention, which makes Springfield the first vote in the country, buries the town in pandering candidates, and ends somehow with the whole town so sick of them that they write in 8-year-old Ralph Wiggum and accidentally turn him into a presidential frontrunner. Next, 90%. And this might be the single strongest TV entry on the whole list. Trash of the Titans. It starts, like a lot of the worst ones, with Homer's pride. He gets into a stupid feud with Springfield's garbage men.
Good news, everyone! I got in a fight with the garbage men and they're cutting off our service.
Marge quietly fixes it by writing an apology in his name, and Homer's so humiliated that she smoothed it over that he marches down to the sanitation commissioner, a perfectly competent man named Ray Patterson, to demand his apology back. One pointless argument later, Homer decides the real solution is to run for Patterson's job and take the whole department.
Okay, but this is where you register as a sex offender.
Ah, jeez, there's always a line.
His campaign flatlines, he gets beaten up crashing a U2 concert until Moe hands him the single greatest slogan in the show's history.
Can't someone else do it? That's perfect!
It is?
Yeah! Now get out there and spread that message to the people.
And it works. Homer promises impossibly lavish, round-the-clock garbage service. The town eats it up, and he wins in a landslide, as Patterson warns him on his way out the door that he'll crash and burn. Then Homer actually tries to deliver. His gold-plated garbage program, the fancy new uniforms, the round-the-clock crews, the pay-to-match, burns through the sanitation department's entire annual budget in a single month. So now he's broke, in charge, and desperate, and his fix is genuinely catastrophic. He starts secretly selling off the abandoned mines under Springfield, letting other cities pay to dump their trash beneath the town. Springfield becomes the country's underground landfill, and it fills up, and then it comes back. All that buried trash forces its way back up through the earth, geysering out of the ground and flooding the streets, until Springfield is physically drowning in the garbage of a dozen other cities. And there's no cleaning it up. It's too far gone. So the town does the only thing left.
I can't believe it's come to this. Moving the whole town 5 miles down the road.
Leaving the old town behind, buried under everyone else's trash. At number 1, the government decides Springfield shouldn't exist at all. And that's number 1, 100%, the big one. The Simpsons movie. The whole thing turns on a single decision. Lisa spent the film campaigning to clean up Lake Springfield, which is so polluted it's one bad day from catastrophe. The town finally listens, cleans it, and declares it protected. Nothing else goes in that lake ever. Meanwhile, Homer has adopted a pig, and that pig produces a silo's worth of waste, which Homer tops off with some of his own, and then has to get rid of. Marge tells him clearly to dispose of it responsibly, and he actually sets off to do exactly that. Then Lenny calls. Lard Lad Donuts is giving away free donuts. So rather than wait, Homer dumps the entire overflowing silo straight into the one lake in Springfield he was specifically forbidden to touch. The lake tips instantly, turns a toxic, fizzing green. A squirrel wanders in and mutates into a thing with dozens of eyes, and the whole mess triggers a full federal emergency from the EPA, and the The EPA's fix is insane. Its power-drunk boss, Russ Cargill, gets the president to seal the entire town under a giant, indestructible glass dome, cutting Springfield off from the outside world completely. Then the police find Homer's silo sitting in the lake. The town realizes one man did all of this, and a mob turns on the Simpsons and runs them out. That's already catastrophic. And then it gets worse, because when the trapped, desperate town finally cracks the dome, Cargill's answer isn't to fix it. It's to erase the problem. He manipulates the president into ordering Springfield's total destruction, and a bomb gets lowered through the top of the dome to kill everyone still inside. That's the sealing of the whole list right there. Every other entry was a scare. This is the deliberate, government-sanctioned destruction of the entire town, with every last resident sealed inside to die. And in the only way this story could possibly end, the man who caused all of it is the one who fixes it. Homer grabs Bart, rides the motorcycle up the inside of the dome, and Bart hurls the bomb out through the hole seconds before it goes off. The dome shatters. Springfield lives. Barely, because for once, Homer cleaned up the one mess big enough to end everyone. Alright, I've got exactly one goal for this channel this year. 100,000 subscribers before it's out. That's the whole target. Hitting subscribe is how you make it happen. Let's get to 100K together.